Stefan, as we agreed, I start and then you follow up?
Yes, please go ahead, Thomas. Yeah.
Okay. I will essentially prepare the ground for you, and you'll be the one speaking about sparks. Okay?
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I will try to say it in Romanian. Bună ziua. Does the job? Does it? I hope it did.
Very well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for hosting the event, even virtually. We're very happy to be with you, and it's culturally it's very important that we can be connected all together. We are going to discuss a topic which was titled "From Research to Practice: Making Scientific Knowledge Accessible." This wording already puts us in a frame that I need to enlarge a bit, because the way it's framed, we are doing research and we push it towards practice, and those guys don't even read what we do, and we blame them for it. So we believe, or we seem to believe, that we want to connect and they don't want to connect. And that's probably a wrong stance. I think the connection between research, management research and practice in management needs to be addressed as a two-way street. That is, we should also ask ourselves, do we go and listen to the issues they have, they face? Do we go and listen and act upon what they tell us about what the priorities could be? This is also part of the discussion we need to have. So there is this first comment I wanted to make. There is a second one, which is an issue of, well, when we do research as management researchers, who are the people we have in mind that we intend to help? Who do we serve? We don't feel like we serve anyone, but kind of, in a way. We do things that could be useful to whom? Would it be ourselves, our peers, researchers, or managers? What a big word, managers. Business leaders, slightly different from managers, by the way. Shareholders? Stakeholders? Oh, stakeholders, much more open. But then what do we mean by stakeholders? Who would we put there behind that? Employees in companies, clients, customers, suppliers, the planet, society at large, government, common good. We all have our own representation of why we do research in management. But implicitly or explicitly, depending, we probably have some people we think of when we do what we do. And when we write, we talk to those people. Who are they? We need to think about that. And we work in social sciences, meaning that our object, research object, big individuals, teams, organizations, industries, supply chains, whatever, they tend to speak, they tend to think, because there are people behind that. And they have ideas on what we do. And they have also practical knowledge. We talk about making scientific knowledge accessible. Do we access the practical knowledge they have when we deal about our scientific, so-called pompously, scientific knowledge? Question mark. So this requires that we know who we want to serve in a way, and what type of practitioners we think behind the word practice. Okay, who the hell are they really for ourselves? I will tell you why I do research. It's not a model, it's just an illustration. Each one of you, each one of us has to do the work of thinking the issue of what exactly is our audience, so to speak. We know the audience in the classroom. What about the audience for our research? Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to serve or help for the good of the enterprise. By the way, when I use the word enterprise, I don't mean the legal incorporated entity with shareholders behind, because that's a different story. I'm talking about the global entity that is the enterprise. I'm not talking about shareholders only, as legally we could think of. It's for some form of a common good, which is shared by the shareholder of what we call a firm. Okay. Second, I must say, I'm thinking more of the managers and the business leaders than I'm thinking about the employees. But in doing what I'm doing, I'm trying to think of the employees as well, assuming that what I do and what I write, what I tell, what I teach could help the managers and business leaders behave better for the sake of everyone, including the employees and the other stakeholders. And all of that, I try to think it in an attempt to serve the commons, general interest, public goods in the process. Now, you do it the way you want. It's your decision. Of course, this relates to, in a way, a political representation you have of the world and how you see companies operate in the world for the sake of humanity and the planet as well. It's a tricky subject. I won't go deeper into that. It's just we take for granted that we understand what we mean by practice. I'm not sure we all would share the same representation. I just gave you mine, shared mine as an illustration. Again, not a model. I'm by no means a model. Third point I want to make is very short. The best accessibility to scientific knowledge, we provide it through teaching. We are academic professors. We do research as a way to generate new knowledge, which we call scientific knowledge. There's plenty of practical knowledge out there. But what we convey, the best way we have to convey what we have to convey is through teaching, education. In the classroom, with students and or with executives in executive education. That's probably the best vehicle we have available for what we are discussing today. Fourth, I would like to say a word about my own views on where I would locate the consultants relating to these two pillars. So the management researchers, where we sit, and the practitioner. I don't personally view consultants as translators between research and management practice, because that's not what they do. I think they read us a bit more than practitioners, but not that much. They tend to read the same stuff as the practitioners, I think, from my experience. I've not studied on that. That's my intuitions, from my observations. From experience. I would see not a continuum between research and practice with the consultants somewhere in the middle. I would see that as a triangle. We cannot ignore the consultants in what we do because they play a role, an important role. By the way, they are very good, much more agile than us at interacting with practitioners. The proof of it, they even charge fees for that. They charge money for interacting with practitioners. So it's quite an ability they have to listen to the problems they have and try to help and bring some help enough that they will have repeat business, meaning that the practitioner will go back to them to ask for more assignments. Let me give you an example which someone in the audience, Pierre Dusauge, might recall, because that happened, he was there. I was invited by Pierre, as a matter of fact, to participate in a jury for a PhD defense at HEC. some years ago. There was an American colleague I had invited as well on the journey. And kindly enough, Pierre invited us, as sometimes it happens, for those events, for lunch before the defense. And at lunch, the American colleague starts mentioning a situation he is facing. He was a he. And he tells us, well, I was invited by a company to organize a seminar for them to help them solve an issue. And he goes, I have no clue about the issue. I don't know what to tell them. I'm most probably going to turn down the request. Oh, interesting. A typical reaction from a pure management researcher. I have the answer, I can sell it. I don't have the answer, I don't go there. That's what you call, fairness, very clear cut. I understand. A consultant would never react like that. What would a consultant do? The consultant would say, well, you are facing an interesting problem. There are many options to go about it. It seems to me that the seminar you want me to facilitate, I'm not going to run a seminar to give you the answer. I'm going to facilitate the seminar. Quite a difference. I'm going to run a process. This is hinted in the wording. Okay. So the seminar you ask me to facilitate is a good way, could be a step in the process that will help you find a solution. Hey guys, you'll find a solution for yourselves. The researcher doesn't bring the what as an answer, brings the how as a process. The consultant does, why the researcher couldn't do it? And so I told Pierre's friend, the colleague, out of surprise, well, why don't you just run a seminar to help them through a process? You don't bring solution. And the guy seemed happy with what I told him. And I don't know whether I did it, but he's curious. But that tells you about something about ourselves. We tend to think about the what, not necessarily the how. If we go for the how, you might say, well, but I don't know what to tell them to do. You don't have to tell them what to do. You may help them because you're credible, you're legitimate, you're knowledge expert, you're management expert, given your position. And through that, you come and bring some support to help them think. I'm not even saying that you will co-construct a solution. And on top, I also know the usual answer is, oh, it's not my subfield of specialty. I can't help them on that. Come on. Sartre, French philosopher, used to say an intellectual is someone who minds something which is not his own or her own business. Meaning, I'm specialized in something, the vertical bar of a T, the T-shaped thinking, but because I know how to operate in this very narrow field, I'm going to try to extrapolate for you to other subject matters where I don't have the same specialty. And I will do it anyway for you because it may help. Because I'm used to do those type of thinking, okay? By the way, this brings me to a next point, which has to do with the relationship to journalists and the media as a management researcher. A journalist calls you up and says, I would need to interview you, or I would need to have a few words from you on that topic. Can I call you later today or whatever? I know many colleagues who are going to say, oh, that's not my field. What he's going to ask me about isn't my field. I don't want to answer. It's not my specialty. Well, if you really think the business model of the journalist is looking for someone who is supposed to be knowledgeable, legitimate, and needs to find within 1 hour someone who can answer or say something about the issues he is addressing. Even if it is plain, obvious, which most of the time when you listen to colleagues speaking on TV or the radio, when you carefully listen to what they say, it's just plain, obvious. But what they do is to accept to talk about topics in which they are not specialized. As long as they come from a place and they have the title and the reputation. I'm not saying you should put yourself at risk. I'm saying what the journalists and the media are looking for are quickly, in urgency, find someone who is decent and legitimate to be shown as a respondent to my questions. See the point? That's exactly the same issue as for this example with this US colleague and his seminar. I will go. In other words, what I'm saying is, this requires to do something we don't like to do, to go out from our safety zone, safe zone. We don't like that. We want to speak about what we know in depth. And some of us want only exclusively to teach in where we are specialized. Well, in most places where we have to give some courses and training, well, we have to open up a bit beyond what we're doing in our own research. We don't just teach our own research, do we? So this is the exercise of opening up a bit. And this requires some opening when we deal with practitioners. By the way, I will give another example of that from my own experience. I've been invited some years ago to start doing some video chronicles. So basically, the format is I write a one-pager, and then this will be on the teleprompter when I'm in the studio and they're going to shoot the video, and I'm allowed about 3 minutes. 4 minutes is too long already. So you'd better choose your topic and keep, strictly to it. You cannot, any digression, you kill the topic, people are going to be lost. So you have to focus and you have to make it sexy. So the title is very tricky, the way you, etc. Now, that, if you do it in your own field of specialty, you'll do 2, 3, 4 chronicles and you're dead. And of course, the platform for which I do that, they ask me much more than that, many more than 3 or 4. And if you want to do that, you have to accept to go a bit wider and to speak about fields that are fields in management. For myself, it's management and strategy, where I'm not as comfortable as if I had been digging the matter for years and years and decades. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm saying, hey, these are the rules of the game. Talk to a journalist, accept to be wider than you think you are. And in fact, you'll go beyond what you think you might be doing. But that's the rule of the game. Otherwise, the journalist won't come back to you because the journalist is chasing someone for the next hour. Urgency is the key success factor, not the depth of your thinking on the matter. Of course, try to stay safe in what you say, obviously. Now, this experience of shooting video chronicles has been extremely useful to me. And should some of you be interested by that, actually, I'd be ready to organize a seminar for a tutor on that, giving you a few, the trick of the trade, so to speak, so that you could get involved in such activities. Okay. Final point I want to make to introduce what Stefan is going to talk about with Sparks. If we look at ourselves as conducting our research, writing our papers, publishing our papers, which is quite a journey, as we all know. And then we've done our job. The job of the practitioner is to come and read our stuff. Then we are totally wrong. Why? Because we all know that the way we draft our papers, the jargon we use, the references we use, the methodology part we introduce because we need to be assessed by peers, reviewers, etc. All of that is of little, if no interest at all for practitioners. So the way we draft our texts, our manuscripts, our papers, are really not attractive to practitioners. Jargon, methodology, of course, format. In the name of publication, we format it in this strange way of self-referencing ourselves to market our own work, by the way, or circular referencing to colleagues who write references about our own papers and so on and so forth to help us out in our career. Our papers are truly not designed nor written for practitioners. Given that in mind, we had the idea at EURAM to offer something to us, to ourselves, researchers, that is, to translate our papers into something readable by practitioners in a different format. And this is what I guess Stefan, who is running the Sparks, EuRAM Sparks initiative, is going to talk about. Stefan?
Great, Thomas. Thank you very much for your introduction and motivation. So as a summary, don't be scared to deal with practitioners and to communicate with practitioners. Thomas told you already a little bit for story out of his own biography. And to add on this, I never planned ending up in academia. So my push was always for practice. That is maybe the reason why I've ended up now being vice president of practice here at the EURAM community. But at the beginning, I have to say that I was always looking for practice because of the FOMA, you know, the fear of missing something out. And that was not bad, in fact, because it stayed me connected with all my network and relations towards practice, but it pushed me also at the same time towards academia. As I've mentioned already yesterday in our discussion, the road only going to practice would be too narrow for me because it's all about efficiency and of course also time pressure, as you mentioned. And in academia, you have the luxury to stay independent, to take as much time as it takes. Maybe in your careers, not anymore, but we fight that, be assured. And it's also more about diversity. But what I found out quickly talking to a lot of great researchers, including Thomas, including also Pierre and others, that at one way or the other, they still try to connect with practice, be it with teaching, be it with 2 or 3 consulting projects a year. Very famous researcher in strategy told me, yeah, he tries to do 2 or 3 consulting projects each year, consulting projects, not more. But that is where he gets the inspiration for the greatest papers he ever wrote. So the problem, the inspiration is coming from practice. And that is something you should really see as an opportunity to communicate with them, to stay in touch. And the easiest way is just stay in touch with your fellow colleagues from school, from your friends and networks who ended not up in academia. So don't get too narrow with your network, but keep that broad. And that they might get interested, of course, what you're doing in academia and stay also interested what they are experiencing and what they are doing in practice, and just exchange ideas. And once in a time, visit them at the organization or let them visit you at the university. So stay in contact. And I think that's really important, because if it gives us the inspiration for our work, it gives us also other opportunities, which from time to time, I've discussed that today and yesterday in my coaching sessions, might be valid in terms of your own portfolio management. If you think the career is not working out the way you would like to see it in academia, then you still would have maybe 2 or 3 other options. The great Peter Drucker once said that you have to prepare your options in your life now and don't wait, because when you need them, they have to be there. So I would say, especially in our field of management, that's easier than in other scientific disciplines, and you should really use that opportunity. Let me share some slides with you, and I hope that's working what we plan from now on in this session, and hopefully you should be able to see them, and I go to presentation mode with them. So here we are. That is basically our timetable for this afternoon. And the goal is to put you in breakout sessions to looking for your own sparks. So to get active and look into your own research work, where there might be an opportunity which you would like to communicate towards practice. And you will do that in mixed groups, early careers and mentors, to discuss that, if that might be a good idea. And then really also to start to work on it. And we will go back in the end to our final plenary here, and maybe hear about 2 or 3 examples of ideas you had to put them on EURAM Sparks. But before you do that, of course, you need to learn a little bit more about EURAM Sparks and the idea behind it. Well, when I go to our mission at EURAM, you see that our basic mission is that of a learned society advancing the academic discipline of management in a learned or learning society. And to a high degree, we want to provide diversity to our members and would like to provide them also with opportunities. Well, is that possible without management practice? We think no, that is why we have created EURAM Sparks. But also the question is, of course, how can we as management researchers can achieve a tenfold increase in our impact, so in the relevance also of our work. Very ambitious and very provocative statement here, because it means that we need to start measuring not only our output, we have discussed that yesterday, but also the quality of our output and the impact towards practitioners. And now, and you know that also from our meetings yesterday, so far I've agreed very much with Thomas, and you know from the dialogues of Pierre and Thomas that they have also sometimes they are coming from different poles, so they have some kind of disagreement. And I would like to put that a little bit forward, because we had yesterday that point of what is the position of management research and the recognition it should earn. Well, when you look into the statistics and the funding of management research, it's quite a disappointing story. It's a poor story, especially in these times where Corona has dominated everything. And so, of course, you get a high funding of the life sciences, pharmaceuticals, and so on. You get also a high funding of engineering science, and quite low, very low funding. And that's the same story in Europe than it is in the US of business management. So on the one hand, we can say, well, we are maybe not so important. Management does not matter as much for practice and life and society, especially in these times, like the other sciences, which are much more decisive when it comes to life or death, or when it comes to security and infrastructure and hands-on and everything else. Well, I would doubt that. And that is especially my contradiction. Is management science, is it life-changing? I would say yes. Is it even saving lives? I would also say yes. So we should do much better on our funding here than we do at the moment. And that needs also in our mission of EuroM a better communication towards decision makers, towards the ones who could be potentially donors of our research, and so on. Lately, I stumbled about a piece of paper, Improving Pandemic Preparedness and Management. So they use the word management here, and it's published from the European Commission. Was published late November. And you know what happened in between. So it got some very bad ratings, this report. You can look that up. And I got interested and looked into it and looked into who were the experts of this report, who were the writers of this report. And you run through the expert list, you see philosophers, sociologists, of course, people from medicine, people from biology. What you don't find is any author from our management community. So they have the title here, Improving Pandemic Preparedness and Management of the Crisis, but they have no researcher whatsoever included here of crisis management, change management, transformation management, logistics, whatever might be helpful in order to manage the crisis a little bit better. So that shows us that there might be a demand here of lobbying a little bit better in regard to the European Commission, but it shows also that their mindset, on the one side, they are using the word management. And by the way, they have included 2 management consultants, but no management professor here. So that the mindset to ask maybe an expert out of our community is not there yet at the moment. So we should work on that, and we should communicate more. And that's, of course, also task of EuRAM, because I believe that better management of the crisis, and many of our colleagues would have to say something when it comes to logistics, when it comes to change management, transformation, acceptance, or trust, and so on, would have to say a lot about it. But they are not included in the current report, so obviously they are not heard by political decision makers. There are other things which are life-changing or even saving. One of the authors here, David Graeber, unfortunately, he died a couple of months ago, wrote a great book which inspired me and other colleagues towards another book which will be published soon about the meaning of work and our jobs. And if we have fun in our jobs, if we see meaning in our jobs or not. And he published shocking details that is not the case at the moment. But we spend 100,000 hours of our life, which is a lot, 30% of our life working in these jobs, but having no fun, seeing no meaning. So is that the world we would like to live in? Or do we want to change it? Do we want to change our organizations? And that's meaning also, of course, changing the way they lead, they do them management, and so on. So it has a lot to do with our profession, what we recommend to them, what the success measures are, what the way of how they manage and lead these organizations are, including our universities. And there it is again, what is practice? Management of our universities, I would say, is also practice of our field. And there we communicate also towards decision makers and practitioners. And when you go to the future, Bill Gates just has published his book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, going up now the rankings and the recognitions. And what he talks about, that's also quite interesting, is that it is to a large degree at the core of our profession. It's about innovation, it's about entrepreneurship, it's not so much about politics. And that's quite an interesting statement, that we have to to reconcile what the next generation expects from us, what they want, with what we can offer as a discipline. And I truly believe we can offer that. So we have to communicate about that and maybe reduce also a little bit the skepticism about entrepreneurship, about management, that they are always on the bad side here and not on the good side. Because in that book, the vision becomes very clear that it goes only with innovation and good entrepreneurship and initiatives that we can overcome our potential next crisis here. So having said this, all that lead to the vision that we want to communicate our scientific knowledge better. And Europe Sparks should be the tool. That should be a community to practitioners to talk about our research, and also a community for us to put our work online and to make it really visible. So what are the values here? Well, it connects very well to the word sparks. The first and most important thing is trust. And I think the role model we have seen here, at least in some countries, Germany included, I would say, were very responsible scientists, researchers from virology, communicating very well what we can expect, what politics should do, how they should act, and put their research towards practice, towards the media, in order to enable politics to make better decisions here. And I think we should do the same and follow their role model they have laid out, not because we kind of that we have chosen our profession to do that. I mean, that was also for many of the virologists, it came hard, but the crisis situation demanded to do that. And it was, as Thomas said already, was in the kind of common interest to do it. So they perceived that they had to do it, and they had to learn it hard also to communicate with journalists clearly about it, so that they had a voice and that they could be understood by politics. They had to learn it hard, but they saw it as the only option to lead politics to good decisions. To do that with a practitioner focus, so to understand what is the community we are talking about and we are talking to, and what are their needs, what they need to understand in order to generate really impact for a hopefully better world. To create an accessible platform, which was the easy part here, I think, with the help of our EURAM office. Thank you, Nicola, and thank you, Eleonora. They created a great platform, and if you go to it, you see a couple of great functions on it, where you can comment easily, see how many reads your articles get. And that's are also incentives to you to get feedback outside the classical review process, to see if you spark really interest, if you get reads, and in the best case, even can present your work not in the scientific format of our annual conference, but maybe more in a form of a knowledge lab, which we also offer towards practitioners. Make it relevant and understandable. Yeah, that's a learning journey, of course, but we will help you as an editorial team to make that happen. And we have also a team of journalists in the background. That was also the topic already today with other journals, that they use a different language, and we want also to do that in order to make it more understandable. So we have an editorial process, not only on your research and topics, but also on the way how we communicate that. Knowledge with a global reach, that will come in the course of the process. So we go for media partnerships in the platform as long as we have enough content, and we are now in the phase where we build up this content. We will go out and try to increase our reach with that platform. So if you're one of the first ones, you can then always say to your children, you started right at the beginning to post on that platform your research work, and it will continue. And it should be also speedy. And we saw that also, of course, in the pandemic, that sometimes review processes are quite long, and we need answers a little bit quicker than that. So that might give also you the opportunity to speed up a little bit if you think you have something relevant which you want to share, which you want to post on that platform. This is the editorial board, very esteemed. Thank you, Thomas. Sibel, also past president of EuRAM, is participating in it. And also we expect that to grow in the next coming years. Well, most important thing, how to submit your work, how to submit your research work. Well, just go to our website or just type in EuRAM Sparks, and you will be easily redirected to that main website at the moment. And that is also, of course, a trust issue. It's only open to EuRAM members. So you need to have a EuRAM account, and then you are allowed to hand in Sparks, to submit Sparks. And you need to think in advance about a couple of things. So we would like you to prepare 3 title suggestions in order to see which might be the best to communicate to the outside. Also to target the right audience, we would like to have keywords, industries you have researched, regions, country you have researched, in order to position that on our website then accordingly. And especially the most important question, Thomas already talked about that, what is your target audience? So think about that very carefully. If you have no idea whatsoever, maybe it's not ready for EuRAM Sparks yet, and you have to rethink. But that is what we would like to hear. And audience could, by the way, does not only have to be the manager or the consultant, but could be also decision makers at universities, for example, or politics, or a non-profit organization. So that's really open. So we define practice here quite as an open community. Describe the problem or research question very shortly. In 100 words, it's harder to describe it shortly than lengthy. And that's also true, of course, with the findings. Here you have a little bit more space. And the research methods, because we want to be rigorous, so research methods are important, and they are important to explain, also to practice what has happened here. And also limitations. We don't want you to say, oh, I've found a great solution and it works in every industry and everywhere, and independent of the context. That would be then more the consulting business, and we don't want to go with the platform into the consulting business. So in order to increase trust and to communicate also in a specific direction, it's important that you let us know where you see limitations, and that also practitioners know that way of communication, that there might be some side effects in your findings result, and that you should take them with a consideration of these limitations and this kind of barriers. And most importantly, also think about illustration, pictures, tables you would like to include, because when you go to our Sparks homepage, you see it's not just text. It's not just about text. We want to be as illustrative as possible to practitioners. And of course, these illustrations, if they are chosen in a good way, they might then attract you even more to read your article. And then it's always connected to a full text version. So you have the short version here, You have a full version that might be already a published paper. That's, of course, the best way that you have proven your track record. But as I mentioned before, that might take some time, and when we would like to be up to date. So if it's also a conference paper, for example, or a working paper, that is okay for us. So we will check in the editorial team how far advanced that is. And we are also very much willing to put work in progress on our site as long as we see that it's really substantial and rigor also in terms of research methods. Then it's absolutely fine to put it on EURAM Sparks after a short review process where we communicate very fast to you. Yes, it's appropriate, it's not appropriate, or also some ground in between, revise, resubmit in order to make it more appropriate for the audience we think about on EURAM Sparks. So now we are looking for your Sparks, of course. And what are good questions you should ask yourself in order to consider a research paper for EURAM Sparks? Well, as I mentioned, maybe you have published already one which you would like to communicate towards practice about, or you have a great conference paper now accepted for the EURAM annual conference. That might be also a good opportunity to think about. You see high practical relevance of your results and want to speak about that and want to communicate that towards practice, or you want to get feedback on your work, also very valid, that you want just to build up relationships with practice, communicate your work towards them, and want to receive the feedback. And you want to increase the reads of your work. As we know, journals are not very much read by practitioners. With that platform, we want to increase the reads and will distribute it accordingly. And you want to create and build up also a better network with practitioners. Maybe you look for possible funding options of your research, might be another opportunity, or just in the sense of serving society, what Peter McKiernan told yesterday about, and also Thomas today. So share your research work with society on our platform. This might be all good reasons to go ahead. And that is what we plan exactly now in the breakout sessions. But before we do that, and I stop my slide sharing here, please let us know our questions, comments, anything you would like to know from Thomas and me before we go into the breakout rooms.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sometimes there is the feeling that academic scholars are far away from the practice, so from what happens really in firms. So what we are looking for is something that then they cannot apply, or each firm is very distinctive, so they have peculiar characteristics. So our results sometimes do not match with the different characteristics of the firm, of the single firm. So which would be the right way to answer to these concerns when we face this type of practitioners that are skeptical towards our job?
Thomas, you want to go ahead with it?
Practitioners might be skeptical, period. Well, they behave like they want. We don't try to convince them that what you do or what I do is important. If we find some who are interested, that's good enough for a start. And the answer can be then to those who complain that they don't believe in what we do. Well, some of your colleagues, other practitioners, have found it interesting. And this is why, and this is what they did with it. You just cross-sell over time. But if we start by thinking that those guys are not interested in what we do, well, how can we claim or dream of observing what practice is about, what management could become, theorizing about it, if at the end of the day we know that or we believe they won't be interested? I mean, we need to be a bit convincing, but at the same time, we shouldn't go after those who are not convinced. You know, in political campaigns, when you have people from parties going door to door to try to convince people, there is one basic rule. If when someone opens the door, you explain you come from your party, whatever it is, and the person in front of you tells you, oh no, I'm going to vote for the one or the other party, let it go. Don't try to convince someone to change their choice. They're already convinced, forget it. Go to the next door and try to talk to someone who is hesitating, and then you will be spending your time usefully. Yeah.
And start within your network, start within your friends. They may be much more open and interested in what you are doing, but that is a vice versa situation, of course. If they feel, well, you don't care too much what they are doing because you're in science and that's kind of the top of the league, then they might respond in the same way. So don't take you more importantly than it's necessary, I would say. It's not that you know all the answers or that you're expected to know all the answers and the ones in practice not. You can learn a lot from them. So keep it on an equal level, and then you will get even maybe better reviews from the reviewers of your paper, which are also very skeptical, aren't they, on average, what you do.
By the way, let me share with you something I learned over the years. As I was both, as Pierre mentioned yesterday, an academic professor, and I was running a consulting firm on the side. When I had an appointment, each time I would have an appointment with someone I didn't know ahead of time, I would have ready my two business cards, one as a consultant, one as a university professor. And I would get out the consulting card, and it would take me about 30 seconds with my intuition to figure out whether this person as a practitioner would be intrigued by the fact that on top I was an academic professor, or whether this guy would think I would be a dreamer if I would show the second business card. And then I wouldn't show the second business card. And you know, I developed this kind of an ability of spotting what kind of breed they were as practitioners, just to classify. Of course, this is outrageous to do that. I mean, they are probably much more complex than that, but I needed that to be operational on the field with those interviews, those meetings. Just, you know, you feel that.
Thank you.
Anka?
Okay.
What is helping me? Okay, I'm running now also qualitative, and it's a challenge, the quantitative part. Yes, the practitioners are very busy, entrepreneurs especially. I think it's a conclusion also from the previous session with the reviewing. It's also about giving and receiving. And it's not about, I'm all the time preparing something or, okay, this is where I am, this is my previous, although I don't have so much research published, the results are not yet published. I all the time consider offering something, also a book or something and it's this exchange. And all these practitioners that I'm targeting are also willing to give to the community. And it's very important, I think, to also see that you are part of this endeavor and you also want to contribute. And it's okay. Probably they don't agree with the, I don't know, the research results, or it might be, but the idea is to send the message that, okay. And yeah, I found, for instance, I'm going now further to the second or the third interview with the same entrepreneurs, and all the time I'm thinking, okay, what else can I give? And I'm providing also interesting case studies, or if I'm to look on the Sparks webpage, yeah, the mapping or some results that I can connect to what I saw. So it's not that, okay, research that is published, but yet it's something I can relate and offer. And okay, they don't say yes. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks to meet an entrepreneur that has, I don't know, 400 employees, and he's in France or UK. But it's great that, okay, we are online and they will accept. And yeah, it might be, Alicia, that, okay, they are not interested in that moment in what you send, but I was really amazed sometimes that they do read what I offer. And yeah, sometimes when yeah, I come back, it's interesting that they can, yeah, they relate and say, oh, I found very interesting stuff, or, and yeah. And I'm also doing research, like, okay, where do they stand? I'm sometimes read also employees' reviews about their companies, and yeah, I know some background on what they are struggling. And yeah, I'm all the time trying to give before I get, and sometimes it's really hard to get. But yeah.
But that's a good hint, Anka. Do your own research about practitioners.
Yeah.
I did the same when I was at the beginning of my PhD, and now the platforms are, of course, different, and you can do that much easier via LinkedIn and so on. But I looked also to newspaper articles where some practitioners published something similar what I do in research. And it brought me not only my first flight ticket to Frankfurt, but also my first interview into PhD, contacting such as manager. It happened to be the CEO of German Lufthansa. And I wrote to him, and the next letter I received, this time no email, but real letters, was a flight ticket towards Frankfurt and an invitation. And that was great. And of course, a great motivation that he wanted to see me. And I had to wait for 4 hours because he was busy. That are the limitations of practitioners. But after that, we had a great evening and a great interview about my PhD topic, which was at that time the learning organization. And fantastic experience, of course.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not my work that I'm sending or considering in discussing, or, but it's, yeah. And I say, okay, this is an article, and yeah. And,
okay, so the question is, how should we proceed with the breakout sessions now? We are running a little bit over time, and I guess we want to end in time at 3 o'clock. So maybe let's have 10 to 15 minutes, not the planned 30 minutes in the breakout sessions now, so that we have some time afterwards to come back and reconcile a little bit if you have found opportunities, your own opportunities of putting your research towards EURAM Spark. What do you think?
so we'll discuss in the breakout rooms about our research and bringing it to Sparks, or?
Yes, 1-2 suggestions from each. If that would be something applicable to EURAM Sparks together with the mentors. And if yes, just let us know at the end. But to limit this kind of brainstorming a little bit now in order that we have enough time in the end to make a closing of that session, and also may get 2-3 good ideas which you have considered as a good spark.
Stefan, we are, I think, 7 participants. Should we make like 3 rooms or?
That's great. Yeah, that's a great number.
3,
I think
2,
not
2.
more. Yeah, 3 rooms is good. So that at least 2 participates in one room together with mentors and with other faculty.
Okay. I'm going to open the breakout rooms and then distribute.
And let's close them then also in, I would say, around 10 minutes so that we have some time here to come back to the main room.
Okay.
If each one of you could think of, oh yes, I have a paper that I could transform into a 2-pager in plain English for practitioners, yes, that I could do it. And then you think about it, and the more you think about it, the more you want to do it.
So how did it go? We got 5 great ideas for future Sparks in our session. And what about you in your sessions?
Also,
Thomas, we cannot hear you again.
We got 4.
Great, great.
Better, yeah.
Fantastic. And also for us in very different fields, 2 connecting to universities and to deans, but still I think also very relevant to practice when it comes, for example, towards reputation management and overcoming boundaries of different professions. I think that's in both areas relevant, again, giving us a hint that university practice and real practice is not so far apart.
And what about policymakers? Will they be invited to be part of this Sparks community as well?
Yeah, I just mentioned in my own group, I'm not sure if Thomas has mentioned that also already. The next step and the next plan is to build up a college of management friends. In the background, we started with the idea of having a college of corporate friends, but now it's broader exactly for that reason, because we don't only want to include here in this college corporations, big corporations, but also decision makers deciding about our research funds, for example, and that's clearly politics, or other communities and boards like trusts, for example, or non-profit organization, to include them in that and think about what might be a good way to disseminate that. Even journalists and publishers may become part of that. So include a couple of stakeholders and to help us disseminating the results. But what we first need, of course, is a good source, good body of content in the EURAM Sparks. Otherwise, it would not make any sense to disseminate. So we start now for the next, I would say, 1 to 2 years to collect this interesting body of knowledge and research from you in our EURAM Sparks, building us up the other structures in parallel, and then really going out with that, with a media partner, most hopefully, and also with companies disseminating that in their newsletters and talking about that. Yeah.
That would be the following. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sparks is not the top priority for junior colleagues starting their academic career. You have other priorities like publishing, setting up good teaching, etc. But Sparks doesn't take forever to generate. You have already a paper somewhere, a chapter in a book, something on the shelf, a working paper, as Stefan mentioned. That is the basics. Then you need to draft a 2-pager, 3-pager at most, in plain English, especially present what you were after, the results you got, and you add a few things. But don't overplay it. It's something you can draft rather easily and submit rather easily. It won't take days and days of work. So you can insert that into your own schedule, and if you can, please do it. Otherwise, you can wait, but keep thinking about that. And we triggered the opportunity for you to do it should you be interested. And for the more senior colleagues around the screen here, well, each one of us knows that we can draft those sparks 2 or 3 pages and send that to Nicola, and he will be happy to circulate that to the review committee. Editorial Board.
Was interested, Thomas, that Fabian mentioned that also, and I encountered it is the same at the University of Liechtenstein, that the COVID-19 crisis now forced some of our senior colleagues to put the relevance of their research on the homepage. So there are nice synergies here. So they're already forced by their home institutions now to show the relevance of their work, which we can then easily use for EURAM Sparks. Quite interesting.
Yeah, that's how a bad thing, COVID, brings positive things as an outcome.
Yeah.
A little bit of positive.
A little bit, yeah, yeah. So, are there any final questions? If not, I think Anka will be happy to proceed with the closing session. But thank you very much so far for your attention. And thank you also for the really good participation here, especially also to the faculty members of IASE, which came extra for this session. Hope
Yes.
we fulfilled your expectations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's great. Yeah, we discussed about a synergized platform, and we will continue now. It's not a finish. I would like to say that it's only a step forward. I would have enjoyed Joanna giving a key, and yeah, I will pass that key to Almina, and it's great that she is here. I would like to say thank you to you all. It was a great support. First of all, yeah, if it's to consider back 1 year, yeah, Professor Thomas Durand and Professor Pierre Dusage, when Professor Pierre Dusage invited us to consider to organize in Iași, I remember that you, Professor Durand, said, okay, that's a great opportunity. Yeah, and I took this further, and I called Professor Adriana Prodan, to whom I want to say a special thank you. And yeah, it was a really interesting learning experience for me. Hopefully, yeah, I wanted to contribute and offer everybody here a chance that was also offered to me. And yeah, it's nice to be part of the community, and looking forward to yeah, use or I would say valorize, because it's not only using, but it's also bringing value back to what I'm doing, either teaching, researching, and yeah, service. So it's really nice how the flow went, the fact that we had this as a last taste, yeah, the practice commitments that, yeah, we should follow, and for sure each of us committed. But okay, it's the, let's say, the final. Let's finalize, or let's conclude this step by yeah, seeing the next opportunity. And I'm inviting here Almina to say a few words. First of all, Joanna, thank you. Yeah, it was amazing, and Professor Dusage, for all the support. Yeah, sometimes I think you had several hundreds email, if it's to count them all. Yeah, it was interesting, and thank you all for the support and for the fact that you contributed. And looking forward to meet online at EURAM conference, and then yeah, on site at the EECC next edition. So Almina, yeah.
Before you pass it to Almina, can I say a few words?
Yes.
So one is, I'm very happy to see the 3 organizers, and I would like to point out that we are extremely politically correct, or maybe not actually, I don't know now. They're all 3 women, So Joanna organized it last year. Anka is almost relieved and off the hook.
Yeah, and Professor Prodan, because without her, and of course the team from faculty.
Almina is entering the tunnel. So I'd like to thank everybody involved. So especially this year, Anka and Adriana, who clearly had rose to the challenge of not having us on site, which is very complicated. The only benefit is you don't have to choose the sandwiches the way Joanna did, and hopefully Almina will. But everything else is made much more complicated, much more difficult. And I know that there were moments when you were worried, Anka, but you can see you survived. You're still alive, and 50 minutes to go. So then you can have a very, very long rest. But I'd also like to thank Nicola and Luisa, who behind the scenes organized. Yes. Nicola is annoying, but very useful, because he's
amazing.
Saying, shouldn't we start worrying about this or that? And if you did not do that, everything would be a disaster. So thank you, Nicola.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for staying in late last night and on other days and doing everything it takes behind the scenes. So I hope you found it interesting. I'm leaving the last, the good news for the end, which is first Almina telling us all the wonderful, about the wonderful environment we'll be in, but also you're getting your certificates or degrees or whatever they're called. I do want to say that I hope you found it interesting, that it was challenging not getting to meet. I think one of the very nice parts of EECC is the atmospheres at the party that you got a feel for in the pictures. Trying to shoot down someone with a laser gun, clearly, I don't know what this says about our psychology as academics, but is clearly a very exciting objective, almost as good as trying to get a paper published. And I hope that we will be able to go back to that. But despite not having that pleasure, and I've never been to Romania, so I was very much, I must confess, I immediately latched on to Anka saying this is a great idea, because I thought it would be my opportunity to visit Romania. But well, I don't control
in the
everything.
future. In the future,
yeah,
forward.
But thank you very much for having been with us. Thank you for staying around. Thank you for your contributions. The things that I think did not suffer too much is coaching, because face-to-face or online, actually, when it's sort of in very small groups like that, it's not an issue at all. Really, we are very grateful that you stuck around, that you, and this is both the mentors and the mentees. Thank you, by the way, to all the mentors, all the speakers, and so on. And again, I hope that you found it interesting, enjoyable, that it got you thinking about things for the future. And speaking from my very old age, as Thomas keeps reminding me, I would like to say that I'm sorry I didn't think more about my career and what I should do. Not sure I would have followed Thomas' advice, but I would have made my own mind up based on all the contradictory discussions and the different points that were made. So again, I think the main thing is thank you, Anka. Thank you, Adriana. Without you, it wouldn't have happened. And generally, thank you to all the teams at Yash who made it possible. Free up a little bit of your time for this. And so now,
Professor Adriana Prodan sent about the news about EECC, I think, in 3 different years. So the first year I saw, and I thought, that's interesting, but I don't have my PhD even drafted. And then, now I know that after I defended my PhD and entered the academic, I I said, okay, it's the moment to also apply to EECC. So yeah, hopefully the colleagues, okay, there are some senior colleagues, but also colleagues that can join the PhD at EURAM and then the EECC. So hope that they will come. Again, thank you, Professor Adriana Prodan. You prepared the diplomas, yeah? Okay.
I want to add something about 3 days with many new professional connections and remembers, and 3 days with great ideas and fruitful discussion between colleagues and future friends, I think. So we shall send to all mentors and participants the certificate. I had prepared to try for mentors and for participants. I will send also online or and both in hard copy. And I want to say many thanks to Kathleen and Lisa and Nicola for trusting us to organize this event. And thank you very much to mentors and participants for their generosity to share their experience and knowledge with the whole academia, young talents and seniors and the other participants. And of course, we invite all of you to visit our city and university as soon as possible for discovering step by step the local heritage and Romanian typical food and wine. Thank you very much and stay healthy. All the best. I invite Almina to say something about next session. Please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me also for this last session of this year's EECC. So my name is Almina Besic. I'm an assistant professor at JKU in Linz in Austria, and I have participated last year in Huddersfield, which Joanna organized. And of course, I have only the live experience, right? Not the online one. And because I loved it so much, I wanted to participate or organize as well in next years, basically. And then we came to the conclusion that I could try to do this next year, 2022. And the aim would really be to organize it here at JKU at our campus in person, if the circumstances allow. Still, it would be end of February, beginning of March. The university is fairly young, and we have quite a brand new campus. Some of you might know it. I know that Stefan has been here a couple of times. And there is, yeah, quite a lot, could quite a lot be going on if we manage to meet in person, actually. So we are still in the process of developing the theme for next year. Given the current developments with the COVID-19 crisis, it could be resilience in careers, but as I said, so we are still looking at what could be kind of the best topic. The workshop will hopefully be similarly organized as this year, but as I said, in person. And in the next couple of weeks, I think Nicola will send out a brief one-pager as information. So it might be interesting for some of you who participated this year and say, okay, I would like to join again. Or you could also think about maybe additional colleagues from your environment that would like to come or be interested in it. So keep out an eye for some emails that will be coming out. I think in summer or early fall, we will issue a real invitation basically for everyone. So I'm really hoping, given also my very good experience in Huddersfield when Joanna organized it, I'm hoping that we can do a very nice event in Linz in person, so that the spirit lives on. If not, probably we will then also do it online, and then of course I will ask Anka for a lot of help, who has now a lot of experience in running things online. So yes, very nice to meet some of you that I haven't met before, and I'm looking forward to work with Pierre and especially also with Nicola for the next year to organize it. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Almina. So are we all done, Anka? Anything?
Okay. If you would like to add anything, what this event meant for you, maybe Licia, Claire, Olga, Yasin, Anna.
Yes, if I may, I can start and then I will pass this to my to other colleagues. Well, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity, because it's been extremely helpful. And I was, at the beginning, I was a bit worried about this online mode, because, well, normally when you have something online, you don't really like get the personal feeling. And you don't have a chance to know the people, but this event was just quite the opposite. And I think that during these 3 days, we had a chance to communicate with quite many people, not only about the research that we presented, and of course we got invaluable feedback, and I will definitely use this to revise the paper, but what I really got also is that this long forgotten feeling of the old style seminars when you gather all together in the same place. So thank you very much for organizing such a great event, and hope to see you at some point, both online and in person. In person would of course be a lot more convenient. But yeah, thank you so much. It's been extremely helpful, and yeah, looking forward to more events like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga, very much. Yeah, maybe somebody else would like to say something else. There were for sure moments and gaps that we, yeah, it's inevitable in any event. Yeah, it was a learning experience, and I do hope that Joanna can coach and mentor Almina, yeah, in the part that I'm hoping that the event will be on site.
I can add a few words from myself, because for me it was also an amazing experience and a big step and possibility to evolve because of all those mentors and all of you to meet. So thanks for everybody for this 3 days. It was really, really good.
Thank you all for the commitment, the energy, the fact that you contributed. Yeah,
I guess we could sorry, I guess we could finish all by saying let's continue doing the good job, and let's grow that EECC framework, network, not framework. Yeah, so I think we are all amazing here, so well done to all of us.
Yes,
Did we take any family picture all together?
Oh, this year no, or let's
take the final picture.
Just a smile.
so that we have something to share.
Just a smile, and I will.
Yeah, thank you, Miguel.
Yeah.
There is a tradition. Yeah,
I always sleep on all the pictures, so hopefully this one.
Yeah. There is this family picture is a tradition in EECC, as you could see in all the beautiful previous events. Thank you, all the mentors. Thank you, Nicola, and yeah, hope to see you soon.
And just, yeah, do you know if we have the opportunity here for the special EECC track at the conference? Will be there something to rework the papers? Because that was also the issues during the last years, that there is a special access to the annual conference. Maybe to say some words about that.
Go ahead.
Yep. Yes, sure, Stefan. There will be a special track at the conference for the ECC. So soon I will send an email inviting all the mentees to revise their paper, to re-upload on our paper platform for the conference. So we'll have a special fee to access the conference, to register. So they have the we mostly welcome to join the EuRAM conference. Will be, I don't know, last year it was on the first day on a Friday. This year we have to plan in the general program, but yes, of course, they can again meet their mentors and go through their papers, improve after this 2 days and a half meeting.
Good point, Stefan. Thank you.
I want just to add a few words, if possible, Nicola. First of all, thanks again for organizing this event. And sometimes my colleagues asking me, why you are so keen to participate in such events, in consortiums and so on. And I have an answer, because when I was myself a PhD student and afterward in early career, I also attended and learned a lot from this event, from people like Pierre, like Maurizio Zolo and many other colleagues. And after becoming myself a full professor, I think it's really important to pay back and to share knowledge. And this is a very good example set by Pierre, by Stefan, and many other colleagues. Thank you again.
And let me add that when we can be on site, it's lots of fun. So I encourage you, all of you, to become mentors, to come back. I'm sorry to say now you've moved into the next category, which is not a good sign in life, but that's the way it is. And I think enjoying the fun of these workshops is an important element that also should drive us to do this. So thank you very much. I don't know, Anka, if you have something to add. If not, I think we all should, I was going to say, start our trip back home. But the advantage this year is that the trip will be very fast. So
last year it was very special, and this year very fast. Yeah.
We're scared of getting the plague in an English train, but we survived that. So
yeah.
all right. Thank you very much. And
goodbye.
See you at the conference and in the years to come. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 See you
Thank
again.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.